So I've always kept sketchbooks actually, and in my talk that I do when I do events, I show sketchbooks from my 5-year-old sketchbook. So I've always had them, and I've always been sort of like a visual recorder as well. So I've got things from when I was 5, and really up until I started secondary school, I used to try and do sort of a diary, but more like a scrapbook of my summer holidays and what I did. So I'd put souvenirs there, draw a bit every day and write. So it's something I've always done. But I actually get really grouchy if I don't have a piece of paper or a sketchbook on me, and it's sort of like slightly panicky if I don't have anything to draw with, on me in my coat pocket. So I've got little sketchbooks everywhere, but I have a main sketchbook that I always sort of work with. And the thing that's really sort of my friends find quite confusing is that I spend all day drawing for work, but then in the evenings when I finished work, I sit in front of the TV with my sketchbook and I still draw. And they sort of say, that's still working? And it's not. It's two very different things. My sketchbook work in the evenings, or when I'm on trains, or when I'm travelling, or in the waiting room, it does feed into my work, but initially it's like a completely different thing. It's my own space. It's not for anything. And that freedom is really lovely. Yeah. So one thing I do always do is I always start from the back, because starting from the front with a whole blank book ahead of you is too frightening. So I always start from the back. So my sketchbooks are a range of different things. So sometimes I take part in something new it's only been going for the past couple of weeks, called Sketch Dailies. It's an online thing where they give you a daily. It's based in LA, so it comes through to UK about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the evening. And they give you a theme for the day. So a character to design. So sometimes they're quite well known, but sometimes they're more abstract, and it's to see what you do, and it's amazing to see what people do. So this was Billy the Kid, so it's playing around a little bit with that. Drawing my friend's gerbils, trying out characters, bits are unfinished. So this is my godson. So I took him to the cafe. So I tend not to draw whilst I didn't draw this when I was with him. I use my brain a bit like a camera, so I take like little images in my head and then I put them together in my sketchbook afterwards. So it's sort of from life, but it's drawn afterwards, and it's an impression of things. And that's my niece as well, and my goddaughter, sorry. So I do try to record funny things that the children in my life say. My little nephew is hilarious. He's 5, and he often features. My older nephew and I just sort of roll our eyes at my younger one. So this is another Sketch Dailies thing. So this was to draw Ursula from the Little Mermaid. So it's finding something that's a drawn thing already, but finding your own way of doing it. So it's really enjoyable actually, and it pushes me slightly out of my publishing comfort zone and can try things a little bit differently. Sherlock, my Valentine's image. I always try to do a Valentine's image each year. And then I usually sort of skip to the front. Then when I feel I'm safe in my sketchbook, there's enough in there to not be full of blank pages, I do tend to skip to the front then. Just draw bits, and sometimes I'll just add little bits of text that says, and then what happened, because I drew this little girl and I just felt she was asking a question about the story that was going on. So again, some new characters. So I drew these 2 characters called Tabitha and Oscar. And I've put at the top, Tabitha and Oscar were unusual children. And I keep thinking about them actually. I can't quite seem to get rid of them, so I think there might be a story there. So it's a good place to start alt story ideas. So this is You Don't Have to Be a Princess to Be Perfect, which I think is probably going to be a subject matter that I return to fairly soon for a picture book. But that's really an image, a little phrase that's been in my head for a while. I know quite a lot of parents with young girls, and this whole thing about the only thing they want to be is a princess, when actually there's this whole other world out there that they can do. It's just really letting girls know that they can be scientists and acrobats and shoot from cannons and things and spies. It's not just a boy thing. So that's Aphrodite, and slightly sassy mermaid. So this was one of the Sketch Daily subjects, which was Baba Yaga, so the sort of Eastern European witch character from folklore. And that was delicious to be able to do that. That's the only way I can describe it, because it's so dark and scary, and I don't tend to do a lot of dark and scary in my picture book work, because that takes your work a little bit older. So that was lovely to draw. And sometimes just whatever happens in a sketchbook happens. That's just a little sheep I doodled. I don't really feel that I can go to bed until I've drawn something I'm happy with in my sketchbook. So it might just be a small thing, like a little character or this. So this was drawn very late at night, so it's probably counting sheep I was thinking about. So, and then I still do try to, occasionally do try to do a recorded diary of my day. So I do this when I can. So often when I break for Christmas, I do a diary most years for my Christmas break. It's just a way of recording things. So I'm on tour at the moment, so this was last Saturday, so it's everything I did there. Just a nice way of recording everything. I did life drawing at uni, and I did enjoy the classes that we had, but I actually find it really stressful to do life drawing. It doesn't come naturally to me. And again, it goes back to what I was saying about things being fun. If I did a sketchbook of really well-studied life drawing, it might look nice, but I just find it too stressful and not enjoyable. So I'd much rather sort of play with my own style and record things, and that is just what comes naturally to me. That's the way I naturally draw. So I just decided a few years ago that's what my sketchbook was going to be, just my own way of drawing. And it's nice because it's you know, I can see that over my past sketchbooks I can see my development, and I can try things out here and see whether they work before I put them into my professional work. But yeah, so it's in my own sort of style, not really life drawing.